Hi everybody, I'm Bill DeCoste. I'm one of the OpenShift engineers. My background is mostly actually in the kind of Java JE space, so I spend most of my time at the cartridge level. I'll talk about what that kind of is in a minute, but that's kind of my background. I'd like to, and I think this is true for everybody who's gonna come up here and present today. The more interactive this is, the better. I've got two other presentations after the break later on. I promise you guys you don't want to listen to me all afternoon. So if there's any questions, please interrupt, jump in, raise your hand, scream, throw something. I'd rather kind of keep this as interactive as possible. So I'm going to do a really kind of quick intro, 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to go through a couple of slides. Some of them actually overlap with Diane's. And then I'm going to do a quick demo going online about really just how to go and get involved. Quickly again, I missed a show of hands. How many people have actually gone and signed up for OpenShift Online? 1, 2, 3, maybe half? Maybe a little more than half. Okay. For those of you who haven't, hopefully I can convince you in this 20 minutes to at least go spend the 5 minutes it takes to go and sign up and at least go check it out. Go and deploy an application. So what is OpenShift and what isn't OpenShift? Just this slide Diane had, and it's really, you've got the application space that you guys are going to be focused on developing, whatever you're into. And then there's some kind of sense of the cloud, and what is the cloud, who knows, right? There's also, yes, a different person, an infrastructure person or an application person get a different answer. OpenShift on the PaaS side really kind of fits in the middle, and what we aren't is really the provisioning stuff, the virtualization stuff, all of that, the OpenStack piece, right? We're at the OpenStack, so that piece isn't what OpenShift is. We sit on top of that infrastructure. What we're really focused on is developers and sysadmins to really kind of take the value of virtualization and infrastructure as a service really kind of to the next step. It's about developers, it's about operations, and I love this slide. Let me bump it up. This is one of our evangelist slides. So the question is, what the whole kind of purpose of PaaS is, right? This slide is great. Thanks. I got a laugh. I think this slide is great because it's, people butt heads. Developers and sysadmins typically, butt heads all the time. Developers have got, hey, I need a box. I've got a new project. I've got a new application I need to go deploy, test, whatever. And they go to the sysadmins. And the sysadmins say, hey, I need to stand up X, Y, Z. Take some time. It's a burden on the sysadmin. The developers are sitting and waiting for the box. And every time the developer needs to pop something over the wall and do it takes time away from the sysadmin. So, there's always kind of that conflict between the sysadmin side and the developer side. And really, one of the real kind of goals at kind of the 10,000 foot level is to make this a much kind of happier world for these two kinds of roles. And what you'll see during kind of the demo and when we talk about internals and stuff like that, how all that works. Again, this slide, quickly, Diane touched on this. There's really kind of 3 different pieces of OpenShift. OpenShift is sort of the umbrella term. Most of you have probably hit the online, which is essentially the Origin, which is the kind of upstream open source version. If you kind of look at the model, being Red Hat, right, it follows the exact same sort of model that RHEL does with Fedora or the jboss.com stuff does with the jboss.org stuff. One is the sort of upstream community version, and then there's the enterprise version, which is ultimately how Red Hat stays in business and JBoss stays in business and we make money. The online stuff really is about every 3 weeks. We have a push to prod cycle, so we're very, very close to what the upstream is on online for the most part. So Origin is the upstream. Changes going on there all the time, contributions, and then about every 3 weeks we're updating online, really based on what the Origin is. And then it's at a slower kind of pace, maybe every 3 months or 6 months or something like that, the enterprise version will come out, but again, Origin being the upstream. This might be the most important slide for the rest of the day. There's some terms here that I think everybody's got to get, or else it's going to get kind of confusing, I think, later on in all the rest of the presentations. So we'll talk about these kind of handful of terms, and I just want to go through them, and I'm going to go through them again later on this afternoon, maybe a little bit more context. But I want to go through them now just so everybody's got kind of I can do a level set. there's two different kinds of server types that run up in OpenShift. There's brokers and there's nodes. The broker is the manager, the orchestrator, and essentially this is what all the clients talk to, the management clients. We'll talk to the broker and say, hey, go create me an application, delete my application, start and stop my application. And then there are nodes, which is the other kind of server type, and the nodes are the actual servers that host your applications. Hosts contain gears. A gear is sort of a nebulous thing. A gear is a container, and being a JE guy, I hate the word container because that's got another definition somewhere else. A lot of the stuff is overlooked, but really what it is a resource bundle. A gear is, it's associated with a Unix or a Linux user, but it's also kind of a concept of a set of resources, a memory, disk space, CPU cycles, all the things that your application or a piece of your application lives in. And then there's a cartridge. We'll talk about cartridges a bunch later on. A cartridge is really the definition of a technology stack. So Python, there's a Python cartridge, there's a PHP cartridge, there's a Node.js cartridge, there's a couple of different JBoss cartridges, Tomcat cartridges, whatever your kind of framework is, your stack is, that's the definition of how to go and deploy those types of applications onto OpenShift. But again, it's the definition. So this is a piece where the community we see a lot of traction taking place, and this is where we see probably 90% of the contributions or something like that coming from the community, going and building their own cartridges, going and building their own stacks, maybe taking ours and modifying it, and extending the particular stacks that are coming out of the OpenShift team. And then there's applications. This term drives me absolutely bananas because I think this is like entity, or it's the most overloaded term in the entire world. So I want to be really clear to what when I say application in the OpenShift sense, I mean the instantiation of a cartridge. So I'm going to have a definition that say, hey, this is my Python cartridge that tells me how to build a Python application. But then you as a developer, a Python developer, are actually going to write your Python application and deploy it to an OpenShift application. So this is where the application is really, really overloaded. But in the OpenShift sense, it's the instantiation of a particular cartridge.
Or a group of cartridges.
Or a group of cartridges, right? And so the client tools too is, so the broker exposes a REST API, and that's really the only interface that's exposed from the broker. So all the kind of management stuff that you'll do in creating apps, starting and stopping apps is all done through the REST API. There's lots of client tools that use that REST API. There's a command line interface, which is ARHC. There's Eclipse plugins, Web Console, which I'll do as part of this demo. Any questions on terms? Application's really a tough one. Especially from the JE sense, right? Because I deploy JE applications in wars and gears to my JBoss application that's running OpenShift.
So what do you call the end user application?
An application, that's the problem. And if anybody has any suggestions here, we go through this kind of internally round and round, and you can shoot holes through everything. And so unfortunately, we're stuck with application for now. I would like the term, if this is what it really is a stack. It's the actual instantiation of a stack. It's a Python stack. Oh, I got 5 minutes?
Call it stack. Call it stack.
Stack was one of my suggestions.
It's really hard. It's really hard. When we were founding Zimbra, it took us like 4 months to come up with Zimlet.
We probably have to come up with something like that because everything else, application's obviously horrible. Because in JE, I'm saying deploy your application to the JBoss application. What? Wait a minute, what's the application again? Okay, so I'm going to hop over and do a real kind of quick demo. So I'm going to do, actually let me hop on here. Let me just hop over to So this is the online, hopefully the internet's the connection in here is gonna cooperate with me. So this is the UI. So this is UI talking to the broker over a REST interface. This is my online account. You can click onto here. I'm gonna go sign in. So I've got a bunch of applications up here already. So when you go up, for those of you who haven't gone already and done this, what's happened is you go sign up for an account. All you need is an email address, and what we're going to do up there is give you access to 3 years. And this is all completely free, will remain free, hopefully as for you know, the proverbial forever. You know, this is backed by Red Hat, it's all put on Red Hat's dime. So you essentially get 3 years, which if you think about it will give you maybe a database, an application tied to that database, a Python stack, a database or maybe a scaled application or Jenkins or some of these other kind of cool things. So you essentially can spin up 3 different stacks. We'll talk about scaled applications later. So this is the UI piece. And then I'm going to hop over and I'm going to use the command line version of command line client. But you could just as easily do all the stuff I'm going to do from here. But okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do RHC as a command line client. I'm going to say I want to create an app. I'm going to give it my password. Nobody write this down. It's really hard to get my password. And I'm going to give it the application name. I'm going to call it Portland JD. And I'm going to give it a type. And because I'm a DeCoste guy, I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick the JBoss cartridge. So I'm going to go and create an app. So there's a ton of things. When I talk about the internals of OpenShift, I'm going to go through in detail about what's going on behind the scenes right now. And I know this takes a minute, but when I go through what's going on behind the scenes, I think hopefully you'll be fairly impressed about all of the things that are going on right now. So everything right now in online is backed by EC2. The Origin and the Enterprise pieces are where you would go and deploy those pieces on your infrastructure, maybe on your Amazon account, wherever. We'll talk about all your kind of different options about where you can deploy Amazon, but our online right now is all backed by EC2. So this is going and spinning up an application. Any questions while this is coming up?
When I was playing around with that, I had problems. I couldn't connect to an application I created online with the command line tools. There's some kind of permissions issues.
You couldn't connect. Well, you couldn't connect to the application. Like you're trying to SSH into the application. Or?
I was just trying to go through the command line tools and the online on the same application, and there were permissions problems. I checked all the SSH keys and everything.
Okay.
I just couldn't get it to work.
Okay. Did you? IRC is really a great place to check. If you hop on IRC, and there's lots and lots of these slides and all the stuff we provided for this about all the different channels to go at, and we could go dig down, or even one of the breaks or something we could come take a look.
Yeah, during one of the breaks. Yeah.
So we've got to create an application. So what I'm going to do is go, let's go take a look. It went and created my actual JE application. I'm going to go copy this URL, go over to Firefox. And here's my application, right? So in just a couple of minutes, what I've actually got is I've got a JBoss stack that's up and running with a templated default application up and running with all the DNS resolved. This is now a public, resolvable URL. And I've got a little kind of templated application up there and running. That was pretty cool, really fast. And literally this is what I mean, to go sign up for an account and go deploy an application, pick your stack of choice and go spin it up 5 minutes at least. And if you think this is cool, great, but it's free and it's 5 minutes. So at least I think go and explore that is worthwhile. I think another one of the really kind of cool things that that OpenShift provides is real kind of direct access into these gears, into your application, right? So you're not having to go through all the tools if you don't want to. If you really want to go see, hey, what does my application look like? I'm going to SH into this user. That UID that's up there is actually a Linux user that gets created for you. So I'm just SSHing into that guy's account, and I'm going to get a view of what this guy sees. There's all sorts of stuff in here. I can do tail of logs. And you can see, so all my logs are up here. And there's all sorts of other, couple of other things I want to show is, let's see, what if, all right, so I've got a JBoss stack. What if I want to go and actually embed, pick a database? You have a couple of choices. Somebody pick
Postgres.
MySQL, Postgres. So I heard Postgres. So I'm going to do RHC cartridge, and I'm going to put in my password. I'm going to do it to my Portland JE application, and the cartridge type is Postgres 8.4, right, Krishna? So what this is actually going to do, it's going to go and spin up an instance sitting next to my JE stack. Oops, I knew it wasn't PostgreSQL. It's going to go and spin up a Postgres instance, and maybe even cooler, it's going to automatically integrate those two applications. So depending on what our initial cartridge type was, in this case it's JBoss. JBoss is going to go create a data source and configure the data source with all the information for Postgres. So you as the user now don't have to go in and configure JBoss to know about this Postgres. There's already a data source there for you. Real kind of pretty cool, and it should point to
And that was done by your -A flag.
Yeah, so this is, oh, right, what I'm saying, I'm just saying, I want to add a cartridge to the application I just created, which is my JE, the JBoss application. I'm saying, what do I want to add? So there's really two different types of cartridges. So we're changing this kind of, but at least today, there's kind of a framework cartridge, it's your base application stack, and then there's embeddable cartridges, and that can be a database, a Jenkins client, if you want to do builds for your application through CI. Okay, so really kind of cool there. And let me show you, this is going to take a minute, and then Diane's probably waiting out because
No,
I'm
I'm not
over
really.
time.
Keep going.
Okay. So what it's also done here, if I go in, it's gone and created this Portland JE directory. So it created a Git repository for my application and done a Git clone down into the Portland JE directory. So if I go into Portland, and I look in here, this is essentially that templated application that you just saw, right? It's really simple. It's just some like static HTML pages, whatever. But this is where you would go and add your application and do a Git push. And as soon as you do a Git push, it'll go do a build and a deployment, and you'll have your application now bang up online. So I'm going to do a real kind of quick little change. I'm going to go in and change source, main web app, just the index.html. I'm just going to go down and change this one little thing so you can see how the change works. And there's also, if you go look in here, there's also there's a hidden directory that's .OpenShift, and this is where a lot of the configuration is. So you don't have to touch the configuration if you don't want to, but you have the ability. So all the other stuff is really your application, but this OpenShift directory exposes the configuration for that stack if you wanted to go and edit it. So there's a couple of directories in here. So if I take a look at what's inside of OpenShift. There's some config, so like all of your JBoss config or Tomcat config or Python, whatever your stack is going to be inside of this directory. There's action hooks that I'll talk about a little bit later that control if you want to customize the life cycle of your application, start, stop, deploy, build, you want to do things before and after that for life cycle, great. And then there's stuff like markers that can go and control the behavior of it. So in this case, I'm going to actually go in and remove, so if let me show you what's in there. I'm going to go to markers. There's a Java 7, which is saying, hey, when this application starts, I actually want to use Java 7 versus, say, Java 6. If I go in and I remove that guy, it's going to default to Java 6. So if I do right now, I can go to, oops, I got to do it over here. You can see right now this guy's running in Java 7. So what I'm going to do is go. So this is how I go and change my application, right? I'm going to do a git add. And that's it. So I made my little change. I got rid of a marker that's going to change the behavior of the application. I'm going to do a git push. For you guys who are Java folks out there, and Maven, this is going to take a minute, so hopefully somebody can occupy the time with a cool question. What's going to happen right now is it's going to do an initial Maven build, which is going to it's going to populate the original M2 Maven repository for a second, you should see. But as soon as this finishes, it takes about a minute. We'll go see that now I'm running in Java 6. And I've got the little changes I made to my application up and running.
I
Yes,
have a question about your Postgres cartridge.
yep.
So when you pushed your JBoss cartridge out there, it popped it open to the public. Does your Postgres cartridge, is it also open to the public, or is it connected only to your initial application?
Right now it's only connected to your application. You could connect it to other so right now it's automatically connected to that application.
Internally only.
Internally only. You could access, we're working on, that's an embedded cartridge right now, and that's why we're getting kind of away from that kind of siloing of this is embedded, where we'll be able to you'd be able to go spin up Postgres as a primary cartridge and access it just as a database in the cloud with no associated application. That's coming.
Optional, if you want to do that.
Optional.
The problem, by default, it's only to your app, like, right?
That's the smart people.
The problem today is, at least with online, right? We started with online, but online's been up there for a couple of years. Origin was just kind of open source Summit last year, so it's coming on a year. The enterprise product came out around November. But for a lot of the stuff that's available in Origin, really isn't online. So HTTP is really the only thing that's exposed externally right now. So if we wanted to expose another protocol, and we'll talk about this in internals evolve-wise, you don't have this problem, you run on your own infrastructure. But with online, it's really HTTP only, unless you want to do port forwarding, which doesn't really fly in real production. You can close that. Yes, sir.
What operating system is running?
Online's RHEL. Enterprise runs RHEL, but we also run on, the Origin runs on Fedora. Krishna, who does Fedora 17, Fedora 18. We've got builds, I should mention, the CentOS. Probably shouldn't say that, but
Is SE
we've got a lot
Linux part of
use
it? Is SE Linux one of the options?
Huge up, that's
It's
you'll
a
see a
dependency.
whole presentation on that shortly. It's a critical part of it.
It's a hard dependency, yes.
Hard to
Yes.
Okay, so that built, and if I flip over and then I can. And there we go, I changed my application around there. And I can also, it's running Java 6 now. So, and that's all, I'm sure I've run over in time. I'll make it.
Thank you very much.
That's all I've got, thank you.
All right.